The 2016 legislative session is coming to a close the next few days. Can you give me a flavor of what this year's session has been like?
Well, it's been pretty rapid fire. There have been a lot of bills introduced, but of course it is our supplemental budget year, so we're trying to kind of whittle through some of those. A lot of them are statement bills and bills that people want to go home and report to their constituents that they tried to run a bill to save the world, but didn't get through this year in the supplemental year. And that's okay. That's sort of the nature of the process. But we are down to crunch time now. We've got budget negotiations that have to happen between the House and the Senate, and we're very hopeful that those negotiations will happen in the next week and a half, and we'll be able to get out of here on time. Sine die is scheduled for March 10th this year.
The February revenue forecast showed our state in a slight deficit. Will, and if so, how will this affect this year's supplemental budget?
Well, it was disappointing because it's been 3 years that we haven't had a downturn in our revenue forecast, so we're really concerned about this one. But it's not insurmountable. I mean, we have fluctuations in the budgets all the time, and actually we got a little good news after that we were expecting $200 million more in revenue from some source. I don't know what that is. So, it's not the end of the world, but it certainly makes us really take a second look about what we are able to budget. We all have the McCleary decision hanging over us that we know we're going to need to produce funding for that in order to meet the obligations of the court. And just for basic services, we want to be really cognizant about the fact that we've had a downturn, so we need to be careful, kind of hold money close to our chest for those emergencies. We don't want to use up the budget stabilization account. One of the budgets from the House does that, and we're concerned about that. So we want to be as judicious as possible, keeping in mind that maybe that downturn in the revenue forecast is a bit of an indication that we're still struggling a little bit in this economy, and we want to be very careful that we get folks out of the recession and back on their feet before we start putting additional potential tax burden on them.
Education is the big elephant in the room this session. What's been done to address the K-12 education McCleary ruling in charter schools?
Well, the charter school issue is probably the most controversial this year. We all know what is expected of us in order to be in compliance with the court's decision on McCleary. I have always submitted that pouring more money into something that has not really shown a good return on that investment is maybe not the way to be approaching this. That being said, though, we have lowered class sizes from the K-3 arena, so we want to be able to make sure that we have the essential infrastructure in place, the classrooms, if you will, the teachers and all of the classified staff to be able to meet those needs. That will be expensive. So right now, a lot of people perceive that we've sort of kicked this or punted this forward to next year, but what we're really trying to do this year is gauge the amount of monies that are going to 295 school districts across this state that look very different, whether it's basic education funding or whether it's money that they're getting from their local levies. We need to kind of tease out that information, determine what those sources of funds are, how can we do this in the most equitable manner so that our poorer school districts, if you will, are getting a fair shake. We want to be very careful, we want to be informed, so right now we're studying the funding distribution between local levies and basic education funding. And I think next year that'll put us in a position to make a better informed decision about how we can address this problem holistically.